On the vast wind-swept steppes of Central Asia, where the horizon stretches endlessly, whispers of the past linger in the air like the fading echoes of a great battle long forgotten. Under a sky that has witnessed both the grandeur of empires and the fragility of human ambition, the tale of the Mongol Empire unfolds, a story both magnificent and terrifying, where the line between destruction and creation blurs in the shadows of history. Imagine a time in the 12th century where clans roamed free, their lives intertwined in a delicate dance of nomadic existence. Here, amidst the endless grasslands, the Mongols emerged, not merely as conquerors but as harbingers of change. What drove these seemingly ruthless warriors to seek dominion over lands vast and diverse? Beneath the surface of their ferocity lies a complex tapestry of human longing, an insatiable quest for belonging, unity, and identity on the unforgiving steppe. Yet their rise was sudden, almost incomprehensible. Within a short span, they would reel civilization into a new era, unfurling threads of connectivity that would intertwine distant cultures like finely woven silk. Why did such power coalesce seemingly out of nowhere? Could it have been divinely orchestrated or merely a reflection of the raw chaos of human nature? As you ponder these questions, the hidden motivations of the Mongol spirit begin to whisper through the ages: fear, ambition, the hope of greatness. To grasp the enormity of the Mongol Empire is to stand at the precipice of history, watching as the unthinkable unfolds. The empire, once sprawling across the Eurasian landmass, transcended boundaries that today define nations. From the Tarim Basin to the Danube River, its reach was both fearsome and transformative. The ferocity of its conquests, often accompanied by bloodshed that left cities aflame and populations fleeing, coexisted with the paradoxical beauty of its cultural exchange, a duality that simultaneously birthed profound art and guttural devastation. In this moment of reckoning, consider the echoes of the steppe. In one hand, the sword of Genghis Khan, dripping with the blood of the conquered; in the other, the promise of trade routes that would flourish under the Pax Mongolica, allowing ideas, arts, and even science to flourish across continents. How do we reconcile such duality in our collective consciousness? As we traverse the corridors of time, the Mongols emerge not solely as warriors, but as agents of radical transformation, instigators of a global narrative that reverberates to this day. Historians have often characterized them as savage, leaving behind wreckage in their wake, yet many fail to see the canvas upon which they painted the contours of history. Through destruction, they forged paths of cultural amalgamation. After the storm, cities like Samarkand and Bokhara became vibrant hubs of exchange, brimming with ideas and innovation, their marketplaces interweaving the fates of East and West. Was it brutality or necessity that compelled them to push beyond their borders? In the vastness of the steppe, where human life often hung by a thread, these questions tumble like loose rocks down the steep cliffs of time. As glimmers of sunlight flicker across the arid plains, illuminating the dust of our own pasts, we find ourselves wrestling with the notion of power itself. What does it mean to wield influence, to conquer? Is it an act of sheer force, or could it stem from a more profound understanding of human ambition and vulnerability? Paradoxically, the Mongol Empire's rise begins to evoke emotion, a hunger not just for territory but the universal desire for connection. The beauty of history lies in its grey areas, shading our understanding of right and wrong. Just beyond the snowy folds of the Altai Mountains, the breath of their ancestral homes filled the lungs of tribes like the Mongols, the Naimans, and the Merkit, whose lives were bound by pride and enmity. Each bite of the unforgiving steppe forged their spirits, teaching resilience that the ink of history barely manages to capture. Yet through the ambition of a single leader, Genghis Khan, originally named Temujin, we witnessed the unblocking of these tribal currents into a mighty river of ambition. But ambition can be a tempestuous force, unable to discern between the just and the ruthless. As the sun dips beneath the horizon, casting elongated shadows over the land, the implications of the Mongol sponsorship of the Silk Road stir within us. This ancient trade route became a conduit of contrasts, silk and spices traveling alongside tales of conquest and cultural diffusion. The throbbing heartbeats of merchants mingled with the frantic whispers of scholars, bonding nations in a web of dependency. In this spirit of unrelenting curiosity, we're compelled to contemplate: how often does the violence of one era yield the peace of another? Suspended in these questions, we pulse with a sense of dread. Will we repeat the past? As we consider the long-standing effects of the Mongol expanses, we peer into a mirror that reflects our own contemporary society, characterized by globalization, interconnectedness, and yet haunting echoes of conquest and control. The honor of their complex legacy rests on a balance, the interplay between destruction and renaissance, a lesson grimmer than we tend to acknowledge. The rhythm of the universe plays a timeless song, each note resonating with human experience. What walks with us on these steps today, fear, love, ambition, are all undercurrents of the same narrative. As the Mongols assembled their empire, pushing against the very fabric of the known world, we begin to feel the urgency of our own era. The wheel of history turns again, asking whether we can forge connections without the blight of conquest. As twilight settles over the steppes, the Mongol spirit invites us deeper into its essence, urging us to reckon with the shadows they cast upon the world. Here, on the precipice of understanding, we gather around firelit thoughts, contemplating the vast landscape of human ambition. With every flicker of flame comes a pulse, a reminder that within the chaos of expansion, within each act of conquest lies the kernel of creation. It's a path we walk still, echoing through time, an unbroken thread connecting the ancient past to our modern existence. And so this journey begins, one that will peel back the layers of time, allowing us to explore not just the Mongols but the very essence of what it means to be human. The steppes call to us, their silence heavy with stories of glory and despair, beckoning us toward an understanding that stretches far beyond the deeds of men. As we continue, let us keep our minds open and our hearts willing to embrace the complexity of history, an intricate dance of ambition that is as unyielding as the very earth beneath our feet. In the heart of Central Asia, a sweeping land once known as the Mongolian steppe lies vast and unyielding, a place where the echoes of ancient winds now carry the burden of secrets interwoven with the very essence of humanity. It was here, amid the undulating grasslands and limitless horizons, that the Mongol tribes formed a unique bond with their environment, one that would both shape and challenge their identities. The land, unforgiving yet bountiful, provided sustenance, a tapestry woven of fierce independence and a nomadic spirit that would come to define an entire nation. Life pulsed here, a rhythm of migration with the seasons, where each family tended to their herds of sheep and horses, maintaining a delicate balance with the unforgiving climate. As the sun dapples through ancient trees lining the banks of the Onon River, we can almost hear the faint rhythms of their daily life, the calls of children as they learn to ride, the murmurs of elders sharing oral histories by flickering fires. The Mongols were born into a world steeped in competition and conflict, a landscape painted with the tribal dynamics that governed their lives. Here, survival came from fierce loyalty to the clan, where bonds were forged in the heat of necessity, and names were exchanged over the smoky warmth of shared meals. But beneath this surface of camaraderie lay shadows of enmity. Alliances flickered like flames, vulnerable to the winds of ambition that drove hearts toward both conflict and kinship. Their nomadic lifestyle was not merely a way of survival, but also a profound philosophical approach to existence, a constant search for territory, water, and grazing land, intertwined with a spiritual connection to the vast cosmos. Shamanistic beliefs prevailed where nature itself was revered, embodying both life and death. The spirits of ancestors guided their paths, whispering wisdom born from the eternal cycle of the earth and stars. It is a rich inner life that not only purposefully governed ethics, but also inspired the imaginings that would propel them onto the world stage as formidable conquerors. Yet emerging from this rich cultural tapestry was an imperative to evolve beyond the boundaries defined by their tribalism. The struggle against external powers like the Khitan and Jurchen pushed them closer to unification. This external pressure became the crucible for Genghis Khan's early ambitions, shaping him as both a leader rooted in personal vendettas and the embodiment of a larger people's quest. His portrayal as a ruthless warrior and shrewd tactician must not overshadow the necessities that compelled a young clan to unite in the face of adversity. It was not merely revenge that drove them, it was the desire for solidarity, to protect the very identity that emerged from the steppes. The delicate dance of power thrived under the watchful gaze of the Mongolian skis, illuminating the journey forward. During the late 12th century, Temujin began to forge alliances, pulling clans together by promising stability and strength where there previously had been division. The emergence of the Mongol Empire was both a culmination of efforts and a radical spark of a greater narrative. Power, as they understood it, did not reside solely in the sword, but through the networks of kinship, loyalty, and communication. As the Mongols consolidated their strength, the landscape shifted, a force propelled by the raw energy of young warriors and established elders awakening to the potential of a unified front. Thus began the ascent of Genghis Khan, whose vision stretched far beyond the confines of his birthright. To the west, the Silk Road shimmered like a dream that entwined disparate cultures into a coherent narrative, a potent reminder that their aspirations transcended mere conquest. As Mongol banners unfurled across the geography of Eurasia, they discovered that the allure of knowledge and commerce was as intoxicating as the thrill of battle. The vast caravans that traversed this ancient route bore not just silks and spices, but seeds of revolutionary ideas that could redefine existence itself. But within the threads of aspiration, tension brewed, a delicate balance held between conflicting ideologies of dominance and coexistence. Each conquest offered not merely land, but also the diverse customs and practices that came with it, an exchange of philosophies coiled tightly around the looms of societal evolution. Amidst conquest, a new question emerged. How could the collective aspirations of ordinary lives weave together so expansively into an empire? The futures of cities like Samarkand were shaped by this very dilemma, where innovation was shadowed by the specter of war, a juxtaposition of loss and enlightenment. For the Mongols, expansion necessitated a profound transformation in their identity and approach to governance. With each territory integrated into their vast domain, they embraced the layers of traditions, Islam, Buddhism, and Nestorian Christianity intermingled in courts that were rich with dialogue. In this, the Mongol Empire began to resemble a mosaic of cultures tethered together by the rugged strength of Genghis Khan's ambition. Yet these threads of diversity held the potential for friction. While conquests brought wealth and new ideas, they also sowed discord among the once harmonious elements, the dynamics of cultural synthesis often teetering on the brink of conflict. Fractured alliances and internal rivalries did not simply dissolve as they gained momentum. Rather, they became the soil from which notions of hybrid identity sprouted. The ragged edges of empire held gems of civilization. They birthed literature, scientific endeavors, and artistic expression that would resonate through generations. As the Pax Mongolica ushered in an era of safety and stability along the trade routes, it became painfully clear that nothing was static. Ambition bore both the gift of prosperity and the burden of uncertainty. In this age of emergence, the Mongols beckoned to the world a fundamental truth: land could be conquered, but the spirit of a culture required nurturing. History, like the vast steppe itself, teaches us that empires rise and fall in cyclical patterns, each marked by the human heart's frailties and yearnings. The unfolding of the Mongol legacy invites us to contemplate the nuanced relationship between power's promise and its price. As the tapestry of the empire unfurls, it draws in the colors of human experience, a quest for strength cloaked in fear, a longing to connect bound with the isolation that often incites conflict. And yet this tale is not devoid of struggle. With each clan brought under the banner of unity, an undercurrent of dissension stirred silently beneath the surface, waiting for opportunities to reclaim autonomy. Their pastoral lifestyle, once unshackled and fluid, began to intertwine uncomfortably with the more settled way of life that city-dwelling cultures demanded. How does one retain their essence within the weight of collective ambition? This is the question as potent today as it was a millennium ago, as the Mongolian ethos wrestled with its own expansion. As dusk settles upon the steppe once more, it lays bare humanity's timeless struggle, an enduring dance between the desire for power and the yearning for connection. Here, where the stories of the ancestors mingle with the whispering grasses, we begin to understand that the roots of the Mongol Empire extend far deeper than mere conquest. They challenge us to consider the greater implications of cultural interdependence, raising haunting questions about our own contemporary existence amid globalization and shared humanity. With each grain of history that falls through our fingers, the echoes of the Mongol Empire remind us that our past is a crucial compass guiding our future. The relentless pursuit of greatness led to complexity, a vibrant pulse that reverberated through nations as ruling families rose from the ashes of conquest. The next stage of this long and tangled narrative will capture the pivotal moments when ambition escalated into conflict, where the clashing of swords rang with the thunderous promise of change, and yet with it, the reverberating tensions between cultural identity and the price of expansion will continue to hum in the background. As we peer into the maw of history, it becomes swiftly evident: the legacy of the Mongols was more than mere dominion. It was a legacy sparked by ambition and fraught with the weight of consequence, soaring through realms unseen, shaping destinies both within and beyond its grasp. Let us venture further past the rise into the tumultuous heart of transformation, an exploration into how violence and vision interlace to forge a new world, one still deeply felt in the intricate networks of our lives today. As the Mongol Empire unfurled across the vast stretches of Eurasia, the heart of this narrative was found not merely in the grandeur of conquests, but in the ever-unfolding tapestry of daily life. Beyond the resonant clang of swords and the thundering hooves of cavalry, there lay the soft rhythms of existence, the humble yet profound realities of families amid a sweeping transformation. Here, against the grandeur of ambitions and sprawling landscapes, one could find a world rich in texture, warmth, and resilience, where the lives of ordinary people intertwined with the currents of history. Imagine the dawn breaking over the steppes, where a pale golden light spills across the horizon, illuminating the intricate dance of daily chores. A mother, her face weathered yet full of determination, rises early tending to her family's herd of yaks, the deep sounds of their rumbling bellies echoing across the land. Each day begins with purpose. Her hands move skillfully as she milks and brushes down the animals, the sweet scent of hay mixing with morning dew. Family life thrived in close quarters, woven tightly around the routine of survival. Each member played their part. Children learned early the importance of horses, the the silent comrades that would carry them through expansive terrains, while the elders recounted tales of bravery and ancestral spirits, their voices rippling like the wind through the grass. The architecture of their lives, much like their homes, was transient yet functional. The felt tents known as yurts served as the hub of familial dynamics, a testament to both their identity and adaptability. Crafted with precision, these circular edifices were warm in the winter, cool in the summer, embracing the sounds of laughter, storytelling, and the crackling of fires. Inside, the hues of embroidered textiles and the rich aromas of home-cooked meals breathed life into the space, a subtle echo of the earth's warmth cradling a family connection that transcended time. The meal shared at sunset was often a communal affair. A steaming bowl of mutton soup, accompanied by rice and the ever-present flatbread, was laden with practice and reverence, a simple reminder of how food could unite and nourish not just the body but the bonds of love that defined their lives. Spirituality played a crucial role in shaping everyday experiences, where shamanistic beliefs harmonized with the natural world, a symbiotic relationship rooted in the ancient traditions that bound the Mongol psyche together. The shaman, often regarded as a guide to the spiritual realm, would preside over rituals that sought guidance through the echoes of nature. Ceremonies around the fire brought together families and neighbors, revealing the interwoven fabric of their community. There were invocations for good harvests, blessings for safe travels, and offerings to the spirits of the horses, believed to be sacred companions on an endless journey. In every corner of their lives, one could feel the unwavering connection between the tangible and the ethereal, a belief that the cosmos watched over their fortunes. As the humans navigated these complex emotional landscapes, tensions also simmered beneath the surface. The harsh realities of nomadic life and the call of the horizon posed unique challenges against the backdrop of expanding power. Clan rivalries, fraught with expectations and betrayals, knotted together their daily existence. Loyalties flickered like candle flames, fragile yet vital amidst efforts to forge unity. The frequent clashes over territorial disputes painted complications on their collective psyche, layering their identities with questions of loyalty and survival. With each skirmish, these factions not only fought for livestock or grazing lands, but for the very essence of their being, a sense of place within a transforming world. Beneath the grand ambitions of their leaders, a psychological complexity pervaded Mongol society. The ambitions of Genghis Khan and his successors sparked a powerful wave of unity, yet they also shifted the structure of daily life. Men and women who once thrived on the peripheries of tribes began to blend into the unfolding narrative of a burgeoning empire. Here, the grand ideals rubbed against the frayed edges of livelihoods, plunging them into a delicate negotiation between the dream of empire and the realities of existence. Alongside these tensions swirled the rich flavors of culture and trade. As the Mongol Empire expanded, so too did the allure of the Silk Road, a vast network of exchange where merchants, artisans, and scholars converged. Life thrived along these routes, where bustling marketplaces sprung up, vibrating with the sounds of bartering and laughter. Exotic spices clashed with local grains, textiles traded hands alongside stories of profound wisdom and invention. The diversity of this exchange widened horizons, introducing ideas and beliefs that would bake themselves into the very essence of Mongolian identity. A new consciousness emerged, one that began to embrace dualities, where pride of identity danced with the acknowledgement of shared humanity. Among the many goods that found their way into these markets, the endless variety of food stood out as a vibrant testament to this synthesis. As merchants returned from far-off lands, they brought not just commodities but also culinary traditions, dishes woven with unique flavors that simmered with creativity. Pasta-like dumplings known as boos and savory stews were infused with spices learned from distant neighbors, transforming mealtimes into an exploration of shared culture. This flourishing exchange constantly challenged and reshaped the identities woven into the fabric of their lives. Yet the very act of gathering for a meal in the shadow of aspirations became a simmering nexus of tensions. With the shifting landscape of power, perceptions of hierarchy began surfacing, shaping everyday interactions. As some families accrued wealth or prominence, the social hierarchy might shift, creating ripples of resentment and aspirations among those left behind. The ideal of everyone's equal share of the abundant land stood in stark contrast with the prevailing dynamics of ambition, an emerging consciousness that beckoned them towards power and authority, challenging the foundation of once invincible bonds forged through unification. Architecture, too, began to reflect these changes, as new urban centers rose out of the steppe, becoming symbols of opulence and ambition. In cities such as Karakoram, the Mongol capital, ornate palaces and temples, the fusion of Buddhist stupas and Islamic designs, weathered the eruption of ideas that merged communities into harmonious yet complex identities. These structures whispered tales of glory and ambition through their intricacies, nods to lives lived caught in both the divine and mundane, a duality persistently intertwined in the pulses of empire. Despite the conflicts and ambitions that characterized daily life, an emotional underpinning persisted, a yearning for connection amidst the chaos. Families shared dreams and stories of kinship, channeling their hopes through laughter resonating on clear evenings beneath a canopy of stars. In these fleeting moments hung the weight of uncertainty, yet they thrived, reveling in shared melodies that could transcend, if only for an hour or so, the desperate strife of survival that dogged their every step. The lives of these ordinary yet remarkable people were deeply woven into the tapestry of history, captured within the quiet rhythms of their routine and the emotional tapestry that colored their communal existence. They were not the footnotes of empire, they were the heartbeat, the lifeblood that sustained it. Even as they stood on the precipice of transformation, unaware of how the currents of conquest and ambition would shape their fates, daily life continued to ebb and flow, marked by struggle, laughter, and a profound connection to earth and sky. As clouds gathered on the horizon, marking a new chapter in this unfolding saga, the juxtaposition between the rich narratives of human experience and the ambitions of an empire growing unfathomably large became increasingly pronounced, a promise of irreversible transformation mixed with the ever-present tension of what was sacrificed amid the tide of ambition. Amidst the aspirations and the bonds of kinship, one couldn't help but wonder, in this pursuit of power and dominance, what remains of the intricate beauty of their everyday existence. Thus, even as the threads of ambition began to weave through the very essence of their lives, they were inexorably tied to the legacies they would construct from both resilience and hope. The stage was set for an unfolding drama that would call upon the complexities of existence, how the quest for dominance often bears the weight of both beauty and loss. As we delve deeper into this labyrinth of ambition, conflict, and transformation, the whispers of the Mongols remind us that history is a living, breathing entity, rich with the struggles of humanity fighting for a sense of permanence in an ever-evolving landscape. As the expansive Mongol Empire began to unfurl its vast territory, a profound transformation in ideology and ambition emerged, rippling outward from the steppe to engage an intricate web of cultures and conflicts. It was a world poised delicately on the edge, where great strides toward unification and exchange loomed over currents of chaos and encroaching instability. Power shifted like the wind sweeping across the plains, and within the very soil of the empire, seeds of radical change lay buried, waiting for the right moment to bloom. Genghis Khan, whose very name conjured images of conquest and tumultuous power, initiated not just the military campaigns that expanded Mongol territory, but a transformative shift in governance and societal structure. The famed leader, known for his formidable charisma and strategic prowess, envisioned an empire bound not only by fear but by the leadership principles of merit and loyalty. His disregard for aristocratic lineage allowed ordinary men, rising from humble origins, to ascend to positions of authority, fundamentally reshaping the power dynamics that defined Mongolian tribal society. Yet it was not solely Genghis Khan's vision that molded the empire, but the mighty forces that catalyzed the ambitions and ideologies of his kin and allies. The Mongol military structure, a remarkable amalgamation of discipline and innovation, showcased a commitment to governing through cohesion rather than mere domination, a radical notion rooted in the intricate dance of power that defined their ethos. Each warrior was not merely a soldier, but a force integral to the familial and tribal legacy, and the connections forged during this time would solidify in the face of creeping external threats and internal dissent. The stable social structure, once reliant purely on nomadic migration, began to intertwine with a burgeoning culture of statecraft. As cities like Karakoram and later Beijing emerged from the dust, they became not merely centers of power but melting pots where culture, ideas, and commerce converged. Markets thrived with luxury goods, and scholarship blossomed in dizzying exchanges of knowledge and invention, bolstering the very fabric of human interaction. This interconnectedness birthed an enriching diversity as ideas traveled alongside silk and spices. But peace is often a delicate balance, and the ever-present tension simmered beneath. Ambition could be both a unifying and fracturing force. Amidst this newfound wealth and intellectual curiosity, the Mongol Empire began encountering ideological challenges that stretched from the east to the west. The Batu Khan-led campaigns into the heart of Europe reflected a cautious intrigue. Would this empire blend the different colors of cultural fabrics, or would they sow discord, breeding an inevitable clash of civilizations? In their rapid military expansions, the Mongols mastered the art of employing psychological warfare, prompting fear through their relentless presence. Yet paradoxically, they opened avenues for diplomacy and trade. Whole communities became lulled into accepting the Mongol ways as new paths formed through cultural exchange and economic influence. The emergence of the Pax Mongolica marked a watershed moment in history, a coordination of trade that would resonate for centuries. One could look toward the flourishing of the Silk Road, a heartbeat of commerce connecting East and West, a delicate thread running through the fulcrum of life in this colossal empire. Gold, silk, and spiritual knowledge danced between continents, transcending borders with stories molded into the very fabric of everyday lives. The significance of this era echoed profoundly within the collective memory of humanity, illustrating how the fear weaved through the Mongol presence transformed, inviting participation in a broader shared identity. But as trade and tolerance flourished, the specter of unrest lingered in the shadows. Amidst the prosperity of commerce, dissent began to brew. With vast territories under Mongol rule, local customs and traditions often chafed against a centralized authority that increasingly sought control. The tension began to fracture the delicate balance, as those once unified under Genghis Khan's banner now sought agency over their fates, longing for independence and the autonomy to embrace their culture without the shadow of imperial might. This internal struggle revealed itself in violent uprisings and growing movements for reform led by regional leaders who arose, captivated by the promise of autonomy. The successors of Genghis Khan faced the dilemma of holding onto vast lands marked by diverse identities while trying to assert a singular direction grounded in Mongol ideals. The legacy of unity and ambitious consolidation turned into an ever-compounding paradox. What once held them together now threatened to tear the empire apart. As tensions escalated, new factions seeking power ushered in a watershed moment. Rebellion became the voice of the discontented, leaving the leaders grappling with the very essence of their authority. To further complicate this intricate mosaic, the Mongol Empire faced challenges from both within and outside its borders. A resurgent tide of the Russian principalities and the emerging power of China posed formidable threats. The weight of defending sprawling territories strained resources, and the logistical challenges became almost palpable. With distant kin fighting disparate battles, the once unified ambitions splintered into regional interests, revealing the fault lines that might lead to the empire's ultimate disintegration. The ideological shifts multiplied as the nation struggled to assimilate the diverse cultures woven into its vast expanse. Each region asserted its identity against the onslaught of homogenization, amalgamating local rites and cultural customs into the once cohesively defined Mongol identity. As religions engaged in spiritual exchanges, the varying belief systems began to clash, unharnessing ancient grievances and testing the will of civil leadership. Even as trade flourished, ideas confronted one another, not only through philosophy but in the everyday lives of those caught at the intersection. The migration of peoples further compounded the narrative of transformation. The very heart of the communal ties began to shift. Massive movements of individuals and groups intersected with military endeavors, leading to vibrant exchanges of culture, language, and systems of governance that appealed to a diverse populace. The rough-hewn tribes that initially composed the Mongol heartland began to collide with the ancient civilizations they sought to incorporate, weaving stories of resilience and survival against a backdrop of cultural exchange, leaving lingering echoes for generations. Life during this epoch was a contradiction of abundance and uncertainty, a tapestry where the vibrancy of cultural merging thrived amid burgeoning rivalries. The once thriving markets, filled with the scent of spices and sounds of trade, began to wane, revealing cracks in commercial relationships brought about by the threats of instability. The generals of the empire, potent yet stretched, found their priorities torn between loyalty to their leaders and obligations to their kin. Despite these growing rifts, the ethereal longing for unity held sway, and hopes surged together amidst the ebb and flow of ambition and disillusionment. Here, seated around courtyards dotted with the fading echoes of grand past, were foot soldiers, traders, artisans, poets, and families who lived the narrative. Their hopes and aspirations intertwined with the aspirations of those spirited leaders caught in a cycle of growth and decline. They served as the emotional heartbeat of a world on the precipice, where even amidst ambitions spiraling and conflicts challenging, existed a fierce desire for connection, for understanding amid unrest. Yet within this tapestry of existence, there remained an innate belief that even amid the darkest shadows, hope could illuminate the path toward their future. As the seasons turned and the waves of power shifted, the cumulative pressure of aspirations, cultural exchanges, and internal divisions marked a silent crescendo, a turning point where every choice made bore the weight of consequence. The unseen forces of ambition and the dualities of identity whispered both promises and peril, casting ripples far beyond their immediate reality. As we tread deeper into this intricate dance of history, it becomes evident that even amidst monumental struggles, the quiet persistence of human spirit propelled the Mongol identity toward transformation. shaping the ever-flowing narrative of civilization itself. Thus, as the grand saga of the Mongol Empire surged forward, with all its complexities becoming ever more pronounced, we are drawn to question who the true architects of history are. In the wake of ambition, loss, and transformation, how does the pathway forged by the Mongols continue to echo into the very foundations of our modern world? As the years pressed on into the late 13th and early 14th centuries, the Mongol Empire bore witness to the heavy hand of consequence, shaping not only its sprawling territories, but also the very contours of civilizations far beyond its reach. From its apex, where the collective ambition of Genghis Khan and his successors surged outward like the great rivers of the steppe, the inevitable tides of change began to buffet against the foundations they had painstakingly crafted. Fragmentation seeped into the empire's heart, manifesting itself in the splintering of authority among its vast conquests. Once a unified force under the banner of the Great Khan, the empire evolved into distinct khanates, each bearing its own ambitions and increasingly divergent paths. The Golden Horde, the Ilkhanate, the Chagatai Khanate, and the Yuan dynasty emerged as autonomous powers, veering further away from their Mongolian roots and entwining themselves into the local customs and traditions of the peoples they governed. This metamorphosis, while reflecting the resilience of diverse cultures, unspooled the once cohesive narrative of Mongolian unity and revealed the strain of maintaining control over an empire that had stretched its arms too wide. Within these newly formed divisions, cultures mingled and merged, crafting new identities that tugged gently at the fabric of Mongolian heritage. The acrimonious threads of ambition carried unsettling echoes. Regional leaders, intent on cementing their legacies, navigated their communities into the embrace of alternative alliances and ideological reflections. In this complex tapestry of change, the gradual erosion of traditional Mongolian nomadic lifestyles began to settle in. Urban centers flourished, but they did so at the expense of the fluid pastoral existence that once defined the Mongolian identity. The very land, once a boundless canvas for migration and transient living, began to reveal the scars of permanent settlement, as the glistening towers of Beijing whispered promises of security within a structured society. This epoch witnessed the resplendent rise of a mercantile culture, its tendrils branching out from trade routes that crisscrossed through ancient Silk Road paths. Currencies flourished and diverse goods wove their way through bustling markets, yet what lingered beneath the surface of wealth was a pervasive sense of uncertainty, a disquiet reflecting the realization that change often comes with sacrifice. As the kaleidoscope of ideas and cultural exchanges burgeoned, the tapestry weaved through language, art, religion, and even culinary practices began to mesh and evolve. Travelers returned to their homelands with stories that embellished the complexities of identity and legacy, pointing to how, in the depths of ambition and conquest, human connections ignited a shared journey, even amid centrifugal forces. Yet, as the empire faced burgeoning regional power dynamics and the shifting allegiances of its once loyal subjects, it also had to reckon with internal dissent, a rising tide of resistance that signaled fractures amidst its grandeur. Rebellion became a recurring specter, demonstrating that the loyalty Genghis Khan had cultivated through memorable deeds and shared ambitions began to erode as the Mongols sunk deeper into the labyrinth of governance. The very structures of power that one catalyzed had transformed into mechanisms of control that stifled the identities of the people they had once unified under common banner. Intrusions from external powers further strained relations. The rise of the Mamluks in Egypt or the emerging strength of the Russian principalities challenged Mongol might and sowed seeds of doubt among its leaders. As they sought to solidify their role, the tenets of loyalty and merit became enshrined within a system that would soon grapple at odds with the competing narratives of governance. Increasingly, the Mongol identity, once resplendent with a sense of shared purpose and vision, splintered into multifaceted interpretations, leaving behind the undeniably emblematic traces of an empire grappling for relevance amid the churning landscape of medieval politics. Amidst this fragmentation, the weight of legacy became more palpable, an emotional landscape rich with nostalgia and despair, revealing the stark reality of what had been lost. The ethos that once bound them together, the legacy of their achievements was mourned and celebrated in equal measure as tales of valor edged into memories of helplessness. Individuals recalled the glory days, the thrill of expansion and the pride of integration, but those memories stood juxtaposed against the uncertainty of survival in a world tilting precariously on the edge of change. The paternal bond that had held the empire together in the Genghis Khan era began to fray, replaced by competing narratives, identities, and the paradox of human ambition. Not only were the cultural and political threads of Mongol society evaporating, a broader philosophical questioning emerged from within the heart of the empire itself. With each passing year of division and internal conflict, reflections on power itself began to blur, with the triumphs of the once mighty Mongol Empire to be celebrated as the age of budding globalization, or viewed through the lens of entropy, who now would be deemed the beneficiaries of this multicolored fabric spun by the empire's past. As waves of time shifted through the annals of history, remnants of Mongol civilization began to blend into the myriad landscapes that thrived in their wake. In the centuries that followed, the emotional resonance of their cultural values echoed through stories told and retold, teaching generations of successors that ambition may both fuel great heights and bind them in the shadows of consequence. Built along their historic thoroughfares were marketplaces pulsating with thriving cultures, molding an interconnected world brimming with diversity, evidence not of the obliteration of identity, but of the adaptability of human beings in response to extreme changes. The Mongolian spirit, both resilient and fractured, endured, seeking avenues to inscribe its presence within the complex tapestry of the world, a profound reminder that empires, though they may rise and fall, leave behind echoes that shape future generations. For those who traverse the avenues formerly ruled by the Mongol Empire, the story of adaptation and survival is intricately interwoven among the nations that once embraced and resisted their power. The haunting specter of memory lingered long after the curtain closed on empire. As they faded into history, what stories of ambition, survival, and honor would remain inscribed in the hearts of the peoples who navigated the shifting tides of a world forever altered? As relics of the past mingled with the multitude of voices yearning for belonging, the legacy of the Mongol Empire prompted a profound inquiry. How do we reconcile the echoes of historic ambition with the complexities that continue to underscore human existence today? This intricate dance of reality and reflection, as the world turned ever onward, left those who came after to grapple with the emotional weight of what once was, where power, identity, and the very essence of humanity intermingled in a delicate balance. An unrelenting rhythm guided the unfolding story, as ripples from the steppe wove themselves through time, whispering the truth that even as horizons shifted, the echoes of an era irrevocably shaped the landscape of the modern world. And so, as we draw closer to the inexorable end of this chapter, the revelations of the Mongol Empire breathe life into the dense layers of history, reminding us that each thread, however frayed, carries the indelible mark of shared ambition and consequence across the vast tapestry of human experience, a testament to the bold, complex legacy they profoundly left behind. As the echoes of the Mongol Empire fade into the distant horizons of our collective past, a profound contemplation arises, one that resonates deeply within the annals of history. For the world they transformed is not merely a tale of might or ambition, but rather a complex interplay of memory, cultural survival, and the subtle transmutations of identity over time. The vast steppes may no longer echo with the thundering hooves of a Mongolian cavalry, yet the essence of what was forged continues to intertwine with the threads of present realities. In lands once traversed by their swift ponies and fierce warriors, the remnants of Mongolian influence are etched into the very bones of nations. Cities once pivotal crossroads of the Silk Road now cradle stories that whisper to us in the rustle of leaves or in the silences of ancient architecture. Modern marketplaces bustle where ingredients from once far-reaching domains still intermingle, spices, textiles, and philosophies that remind us of an ambition to connect despite the distance and divergences created by time. Each echo is a thread pulling earlier eras into the fabric of the lives we lead today, revealing an undercurrent powered by aspiration, exploration, and the human thirst for understanding. The ruins that dot the landscape stand as solemn witnesses to the chapters that have unfolded since the days when the Mongol Empire arose with unparalleled speed. The great city of Samarkand, with its elegant mosaics and grand minarets, tells tales of cultural synthesis, an amalgamation of artistry and innovation that transcended borders. It bears the marks of the rulers who wielded power over vast expanses and orchestrated cultural exchanges that would reverberate long after the final banners were lowered. The echoes of artisans, merchants, and scholars who mingled within its walls remain a living testament to the cross-pollination that defined a sprawling, yet once fractured empire. Yet as we draw near to the pivotal questions of legacy and remembrance, we find ourselves confronted with the duality of history. It is a living organism, one that breathes through the ages, shaped by the perceptions and interpretations of new generations. How have the narratives crafted by those ancient warriors transformed over centuries? What stories have been championed, and what truths lying dormant have been either forgotten or reimagined? The Mongol Empire, once perceived as a harbinger of terror and upheaval, now stands as a profound narrative of cultural amalgamation, an inspiring paradox that challenges us to re-evaluate our own understandings of power and conflict. Across the centuries, the ghost of the Mongol identity has lingered, weaving its essence into the modern psyche of its descendants. In Mongolia, traditional herders stand in stark contrast to the throbbing pulse of Ulaanbaatar, a city that embodies the dynamic interplay between preservation and modernization. Even as contemporary Mongolia grapples with its identity, threads of a nomadic heritage weave their distinct patterns into the vibrant, fast-changing fabric of urban life, a powerful reminder that the echoes of the past are never too far removed from the rhythms of the present. The celebration of Nardam, a festival of wrestling, archery, and horse racing, connects generations to a legacy that speaks not of dominance, but of community and shared values. As different cultures inherited the legacies of the Mongol Empire, they begot newfound interpretations, each framing the past through their unique lenses. The Russian principalities, emerging from the vestiges of Mongol rule, claimed a legacy that at once incited both admiration and resentment, while the Islamic world absorbed and redefined the knowledge and practices left in their wake. Through this intricate tapestry, we come to understand power not simply as an exertion of force, but rather a conduit for stories that evolve, resonate, and serve as bridges to our shared humanity. Yet within this narrative of transformation, silence lingers. The once great institutions that once thrived under their vast umbrella now whisper tales of grandeur mixed with the quiet dignity of what has been lost. As empires crumble beneath their own weight, the complexities of governance remind us that each empire's demise carries profound implications for those who emerge from the ashes. Lives once anchored by ambition now navigate uncertainty, searching for meaning amid the constantly shifting sands of history. Within every fallen structure, the soft echoes of human lives resound, dreams expressed in woven rugs, songs sung around flickering fires, and the children's laughter that dances in the wind, a legacy preserved in the shared experience of existence itself. It is within these intimate remembrance that we discern the true magnitude of the Mongol influence, a legacy not defined merely by their conquests, but illuminated through their contributions to cultural evolution, trade networks, and the connectivity that laid the groundwork for our modern understanding of globalization. But as we sit here, contemplating the rippled surface of history, we are also reminded of the fragility of memory. What remains with us as we continue on our collective journey is not solely the tales handed down in grand narratives, but rather the quieter stories of resilience and adaptation that define what it means to be human. For every whisper of the past, hear the beads of time hit the floor quietly, as the generations before remind us to remain attentive to the legacy we choose to uphold in the world we build. In this light we arrive at the crux of our inquiry. Amidst the power struggles, the aspirations, and the delicate dance of human ambition, we must ask ourselves, what can we learn from the Mongol Empire's legacy as we ride the currents of contemporary chaos and strive for understanding amid our own complexities? How do we honor the past while threading our hopes toward an uncertain future? And perhaps most poignantly, how do we carry forward the echoes of resilience, adaptability, and connection that transcend the bounds of time and culture? As the weight of their magnificent legacy settles around us, we find ourselves once again gazing across the vast steppes, where the wind carries with it the stories of those who dared to dream and strive, reminding us gently that even as empires rise and fall, it is the enduring spirit of humanity that echoes through the ages, unwavering, indelible, and forever intertwined with our shared experience. And in this reflective stillness, as the night deepens and we step softly away from the vibrant life of history, we are left with a realization. The people may have vanished from the steppes, yet their world still lingers, quietly resonating through our own existence. The echoes remain, a testament to the complex tapestry they wove, a legacy that gently draws us closer to understanding our place within this enduring continuum of time, leaving us with the realization that the stories we inherit from the past are but rich veins that run deeply through our present.